later on. The plan for today's session will be similar to before. I've got a set of questions that on a sort of an interview guide that we're going to work through, and of which I'll ask questions, and I'll introduce you to our panel in a second. And if you have questions, chuck them in the group, and Tom will sort of filter through them. These guys will also have the opportunity to ask each other questions as well. But without further ado, we have got with us three fantastic individuals this evening. So I'd just like to say welcome to Polly, Mel and Ollie. And I've said that I'm going to say in that order each time, because if I say Mel, Polly, Ollie, it's just going to not sound great. So it's Polly, Mel and Ollie. So what we're going to do first is each of our panel is just going to quickly introduce themselves, give them a bit of an overview, and then we're going to dive into some questions in and around their journey from their initial days to where they got to now with their club. So to kick off, we'll start off with the youngster of the group. We're going to go with Polly.
Hi guys. Hi, I'm Polly. I run Exeter Trampoline Academy down in Devon. We started in 2016 with one trampoline and a vision, and it's grown. I opened the centre in 2018, so we were going for just over a year and a half, and then we moved into a centre, and we've been in there 2 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Polly. Beautiful stuff down in Exeter. And so we'll jump to Mel now. So Mel.
I'm Mel. I'm the Managing Director of Flourished Gymnastics Academy. So we're based in the Gwent Valleys, roughly. We've got a very long history as a club. We started off as Abertillery Gymnastics Club and Ebervale Gymnastics Club. So there is a history of over 40 years. But really the modern club as it is now started in 2011 when we moved into an industrial unit. It grew then strength to strength. A couple of years later, I gave up my lecturing job at Cardiff Met, and things really grew and grew from there. And we now deliver from that facility, but also we've got a number of satellites as well across 5 different local authorities in South Wales, and a membership of about 2,800 members that we come into contact with on a weekly basis.
So, yeah, a mouthful, and again, a fantastic history there. And Mel left off some little bits about, picking up a couple of walls along the way, which we'll probably talk a bit about later on. And our last panelist for the evening, Ollie.
Hello everyone, hello. My name is Olly Monroe. I am the lead coach and one of the directors of Exeter Trampoline Gymnastics Club. We train out of a big building in Bristol. I started the club back in 2005, just with a couple of rubbishy old trampolines and a couple of throwing mats, and that was about it. And then we just grew and grew and grew and grew. A couple more pushing mats, and it was all good. And then eventually we decided to make the move to dedicated premises. We moved there got the keys to the building on the 21st of December 2014, and we opened on something like the 6th or the 7th of January 2015, and hey presto. So yeah, that was a fun Christmas. Yeah, busy. So now we do, I think I counted out the other day, we do 10 different disciplines and serve about 1,500 kids a week, with just over 30 staff. Yeah, it's busy.
Awesome. So again, we've got some well-established other clubs in the room as well. So it's fantastic that everyone's come along this evening. But our panelists there, again, fantastic array. And we just sort of said before, I think Polly summed up nicely. It was almost like different stages of the journey. We've got initial, mid, and then just top end there, cracking on a good couple of years into their journey. So what we were going to kick off with was to sort of just visit each of the group and ask some questions around different topics. So the first one to really sort of dive in was, and I've given the questions already, so hopefully you've got some thoughts already around this area, guys. But we're going to dive in. Well, what was your why? Because Polly, we'll go with Polly first. You said something about a vision there. So what was your why to go on this journey?
Yes, so it was always been the dream of mine since I was probably about 15 to run my own club. That was always the goal, but I thought I'd be doing it when I was about 50, maybe had a family, and later on down the line. And you got lots of time on your hands at 50, haven't you? So I thought that would be a good time to start a club. But I was teaching, I was kind of in that mid-20s where you don't know what to do with your life. I was walking around B&Q crying with my dad. I don't know what I'm doing. He said, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I just want to teach trampolining. He was like, well, why don't you start that? And I was like, there's nowhere in Exeter that does it. There's nowhere I can join. And he said, well, you're going to have to do your own then. And that was that. And I bought trampolines and I started, and that was the why, really. It was just, this is your passion. This is what you want to do. This is the vision. So just get going with it. And I did.
I tell you what, to take that step to be like entrepreneurial and to take that dive is fair play to you. So well done there. And good work on B&Q and your dad for ushering you in that direction.
Yeah, Papa John's always has a hanky in his pocket. He's a good guy.
Sounds like a hero. And so we'll dive into Olly next.
Mine's a pretty similar story, actually. It was born out of a don't really know what I want to do, but I know that I absolutely freaking love trampolining. So I started trampolining when I was at university. Went to UE in Bristol, and did my first seat landing age 20, and I just loved it. What an amazing thing that I discovered, and why had I not discovered it sooner? And threw myself around and had loads of fun. And by the time I was even halfway through my degree, I think I was spending more time in the student activity centre, planning the next trip for the student trampoline club, because of course I'll be the captain. So I was just spending more time planning the trampoline club than I was my actual degree. It was wonderful. But as I was doing more and more training, I was getting better and better as a gymnast, and started competing and did all the regional level stuff, and then got to national level stuff. And I know that there are several of you, probably most of you in the room, that are all grinning when you think about me actually trampolining. I used to fall off quite a lot. Thank you, Sue. I did all right for someone that only started age 20, but I did fall off quite a lot. But anyway, there was nothing in Bristol. There was nowhere in Bristol that could coach me. There weren't any high-level coaches that could teach me anything beyond a half out and a double back. So I was having to schlep myself here, there, and everywhere. So I went down to see people like Sue, and I went to Steve and Donna Grist at Red Kites and trained there. I saw Isabel Chick at Vertigo. I went to see Sarah Hunt and Nikki Allen at Evolution Trampoline Club, as it was at the time, and just got better and better. But there was nothing in Bristol, so I was like, well, do you know what? I should start a club. I should provide that provision for Bristol, for the community of Bristol, and just started with 2 trampolines and then ended up where I'm at now.
Awesome. And I was going to say the other part about you having to go anywhere, and obviously being a different trampolinist. You're quite tall for a trampoline person. 6'2", so it's a bit tall for that. But again, it sounds a similar story to Polly there, which is fantastic. Saw a sort of a gap in the market and a need, and actually trying to spread that that joy of doing that sport as well. So it's awesome to sort of see that. And Mel, coming to you now.
I guess, like the other two, I've always loved gymnastics. I was a gymnast myself, just lived in the gym from the age of 4. And it was always my dream to run a gymnastics facility, but always kind of a pipe dream. I never thought it would happen. So carried on, was coaching for a small voluntary club. And as I said, we've got a kind of a history of over 40 years, the clubs that I've come from, and has resulted in VGA. Did a bit of coaching, carried on with my career. I was at Cardiff Met, lecturing, sport development and sport management, volunteering on the side, coaching gymnastics, thinking, well, one day maybe, who knows, we'll see. Anyway, in Blaen y Gwent, Ebervale Sports Centre was being demolished and rebuilt, and Abertillery Sports Centre was being demolished and rebuilt. And we knew that we were going to have less space available to us than we had at the current time. So we kind of just started looking tentatively for a unit, not really convinced it was going to happen personally, but just having a little look. Eventually found something that was suitable, and we thought, well, okay, if we can pay the rent every month, if we can have 100 kids coming through the door, we've got all this gymnastics equipment, we'll just chuck it in a unit. And my stance, honestly, was as long as we can pay the rent, then we're in a better position than we're in now. So that's where it started. That was in 2011. I think there was a lot of gymnastics at the time. We had London 2012, there was Commonwealth Games, there was loads of live stuff going on in this country. Gymnastics was in the press. As luck would have it, we chose a really good area to move into for the South Wales Valleys. It's a fairly affluent community in which we're now based. And actually the club just grew and grew. My time commitment grew and grew at VGA, and in all honesty, one day I just burst into tears and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm going to go into Cardiff Met, and I was ready to hand in my notice from a lecturing job. And they said, oh, hang on a minute, you can't just do that, that's ridiculous. So they gave me a career break, and 2 years later, I knew that VGA wasn't the VGA that it was 2 years ago. There was no way that I could go back to Cardiff Met. Absolutely loved doing what we were doing, had grown considerably, expanded into a couple of new local authorities in terms of satellites. And then, you know, that I guess was the new VGA for me. And Polly talked about a vision. Hand on heart, when I started in 2011, I didn't have a vision. We just needed to survive. We just wanted to pay the rent. That was it. Hand on heart now, my passion is the community. I can't even say that it's gymnastics, but it's about delivering to the community through gymnastics and giving opportunities through gymnastics, whether that's coaching, volunteering, judging, whatever that might look like. But that's my vision now, is helping the community through our sport.
Beautiful. And it's, I think that just screams there how it's sort of developed, and Cardiff Met lost out when you didn't come back. But it's interesting how that's changed from gymnastics to a community vibe. And we'll dive into that bit then. So we've got some questions lined up, but if we just had to sort of say that how your vision has developed, or what your vision is now, what would you say that is, and how that's developed then? Mel, we'll carry on with you, then we'll jump to Olly, then Paul.
When I was a kid, I loved gymnastics, and when I started coaching, I loved gymnastics, and I wanted to coach development girls. I wanted to get them into Welsh squad, and I wanted to develop them as far as I could. Now that still happens, and that's still what I do, and that's I guess in one way that's my hook for gymnastics, and I won't give that up. But I strongly feel that everybody can benefit from gymnastics, not just those chosen few. And agree with me or not, how many kids are actually going to be going to the Olympics? Such a tiny, tiny proportion. But there are so many children and young people that can benefit from gymnastics. So that's what drives us. And we want to provide gymnastics for all, genuinely. So whether it's from elite development or through to freestyle and parkour, then we want to be able to provide something for the community. So with the men's artistic, for example, the boys continue to train at our venue. We've got opportunities in place. We work really closely with the national coaching team, got boys in the junior Welsh squad. With the girls, I've made the decision that I pass my talented athletes on to Tracy Skirton down in Sophia Gardens. Rightly or wrongly, people agree, people disagree, but for the girls, for me, for the club, that is the right thing to do, because it means for us that we can fill the gym with kids. Lots of kids can come into the gym. It's come in on a Friday night and it's organised chaos. That is really important. And it's also really important that if there are kids who can't come to one of our venues, that we can go out to schools, we can go out to youth centres, we can go out to different facilities, different venues, and we can provide gymnastics for young people. So I'm passionate about the performance side of it, but for me and for our club, we don't want that to kind of preclude anybody else from taking part. And for us in this local area, in terms of running a business which is sustainable, I think this is the right business model for us. I don't want to be panicking about money. I don't want to be panicking about getting grants to do X, Y, and Z. So this way for us, actually, it ticks all the boxes. It means we've got numbers coming through the door, and it also means that we got cash coming in as well, which you can't deny is important.
Yes, unfortunately, but no, and that sounds fantastic, that journey you've been on. And we'll dive into Polly next. You want to follow up?
Yeah, is that Polly? Yeah, not Ollie.
Polly, P.
Okay.
P.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Just because I think it's better to show you the excitement of the crazy journey.
2 seconds.
Fingers crossed
Sorry.
it works. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, come on,
I haven't
technology.
actually. Yeah. Okay, it should be fine.
Bam.
Should work.
Oh, yeah, it will work if I work. Yeah, cool. Can you see it yet? Is it working? Nope.
Oh, there you
Yeah. Here we go. Crack on,
Yeah?
Paul.
Okay, cool. So we started
Oh my God, you've done a presentation.
I just whacked some photos in. Don't get too
Massively
excited.
now.
So we were running from 3 different venues across 6 days a week. Some venues we went to twice a day. We were doing schools, and I had a Luton Low Loader van, which you can see in the background of one of these pictures. And we put the trampolines in and out of the van every day with all the index, with all the mats, with everything that we needed. So the only thing that we required from sports centres when we went there were just the floor mats. So they just needed gymnastic mats, which most of them had, and we could run our sessions. Gradually, we started making more money, so we just added to it. So we got a DMT, and we then added extra trampolines. They then added all the extra bit of kit that we needed. In order to fundraise, you can see in one of these pictures a picture of a marquee. And we did like comedy nights. So we had professional comedians come down, you'd pay tickets, and we do events like that, which were great fun. And we had a real community feel where it was something I think is very special. We have Team ETA, and Team ETA is everybody is in together, so the parents aren't excluded. They're actually doing fundraising ideas as the kids are bouncing. And it does feel we've got them all kitted out, obviously in A-Star kit, and everyone, there is a real feel of a team together, which I think is really special. There are no coaches in Exeter because there was no trampolining, so I started doing apprenticeships. So every year that we've been running, I've taken on a new apprentice coach who's been about 17 years old, and we've trained them up through their level 1 and their level 2 coaching courses. And most of them have stayed with us and now have full-time jobs with us as well, and they're doing their level 3 badges.
Awesome.
So that's where we were, and then this was kind of the next bit. You can see how petrified I look in this photo. This is me collecting the keys to the unit. Do you want me to continue, or do you want me to pause there?
It's what was the next bit you were going to talk about? Was that my next question?
Finding the unit and like how I made it happen.
Not yet. We're going to Ollie,
Yeah.
and then we'll dive into that stuff.
Pause that. Stop share. That's a bit of taster for you.
Love a PowerPoint. Love a PowerPoint. Yes. It's not a competition between Polly, Mel, and Ollie here, but Ollie, what have you got? Ollie's going to do some sort of hand puppetry now.
Sing a song.
I have a cat.
Win. Ollie, go for it.
Let's have a trampoline name. This is Rudy, so that's how sad I am. What topic do you want me to speak on?
I think we were talking about the vision.
The vision at the start was just I want to provide somewhere for people to access high level coaching. At the time when I spotted in one of the questions is what level of qualifications did you have when you all started up? I think at the time I was a club coach, so equivalent to UKCC level 3.1 now in today's money. But you know, as the time progressed, obviously I kept on working on my coaching courses, and I'm now HPC in trampoline and senior club in double mini. I've got a couple of other bits and pieces as well, but they're my primary ones. So I wasn't the sort of top of the coaching tree to start off with, but it was definitely, I want to aspire to be able to deliver, you know, the skills that I wasn't able to access as a gymnast myself. Just following on from what you said, Melissa, it was really interesting what you said. I completely agree with you that whilst I want to be able to offer the tip of the sword, and we do, and that's fantastic. And I love immersing myself in, guys who are training at top end British level and pushing international level and all that kind of stuff. And I've certainly done bits and pieces with, people from the British team, and I've been out to world championships and done commentary for all sorts of bits and pieces and whatnot. So that's been fantastic, and I love it. But I also love teaching little Billy, who comes for 1 hour a week. He's in my disability class, and he just loves to bounce up and down and make lots of noise and make all the other kids quite scared, because he's making lots of noise and having the best time of his life. So being able to offer that community experience has been really important, because, like I said earlier on, I started when I was 20, and I was fully committed to becoming the world's best trampolinist. In my head, that's what I was. It wasn't true, but I was fully committed to trying to get there. And I was fully prepared to leave Bristol and move to the town where there was going to be an appropriate club, an appropriate coach that could, take me on that journey. I have to say that there were so many clubs that were just absolutely not interested in me. They didn't even want to see me bounce or see me jump, because I was too old. Their words, "You're too old. You're never going to make it on your bike, son. Don't bother." So it really frustrated me that, bearing in mind I only started when I was 20, I wasn't a child gymnast. I had an unorthodox route into the sport, but there were clubs that couldn't cater for me or wouldn't cater for me, and I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be a club that catered for everybody. So I want to be able to do the tip of the sword. I want to be able to deliver, participation level, obviously trampolining at the time, but now we've expanded out into gymnastics and all the other disciplines that we offer. I want to be able to do disabilities. I want to be able to get the teenage boys and girls that are hanging out on the street corners, and I want them to come and do parkour and do cool circus stuff, and I want them to throw themselves off the trampoline wall and all the crazy stuff that a lot of clubs that don't have a dedicated facility are able to offer. I want to be able to do everything for everyone, and maybe that's just me being a little bit an idealist, that I can serve all of those groups. What do they say? Jack of all trades and master of none. But actually, I want to be a jack of all trades and master of all. And that's, like I say, maybe that's just me being an idealist, or maybe a bit naive. But it's working. We are serving the community, and we are hitting all those groups. And we have got the fact that we've got so many bums on seats, and we've got waiting lists coming out of our ears, and we've been so successful up to this point. It hopefully kind of shows that actually we're doing it right, and we are being master of all. So that's the kind of where we're at.
I'll tell you what, my face is hurting from smiling right now, because actually hearing those 3 stories, it tells a fantastic journey of, there was a gap. Well, actually you wanted to do it because you love the sport, and providing an opportunity, and it's great seeing Polly's journey through pictures. The fact that I'd love to have seen Olly and Mel's face that first day with the new keys and the stress on the face or whatnot. It's almost like you're on the edge of breakdown and stupidly crazy joy.
That was it, yeah.
And it's a fine line to be in. It's a fine line. But it's great. Keep asking the questions in the chat. I know Mel, Olly, and Polly are answering in there, but some fantastic points in there. So now what we're going to dive into, hearing the vision and hearing the journey is awesome. Now we're just going to touch in on, so along the journey, and either of you can answer now, like what just worked, who helped, what just worked, what fell into place. Then we're going to talk about challenges, and then we'll talk about lessons learned. But Polly, Mel, Olly, you can all dive in or ask each other questions. If you were to dive in with what worked, what did work for you? What made it a little bit easier?
Go on.
So I was going to say, it isn't easy. The best thing about it is the kids. So for everything you do, and you have to be the person that does absolutely everything, and you have to pour your heart and soul into it and all your money, and you put your life on the line to make it happen. The good bits are the kids. And I think for me, by having the balance of coaching plus trying to make the centre happen, it was like a reaffirmation every day of, okay, I'm going in and teaching these 4-year-old kids to a seat landing. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm not sleeping at night. This is why I am pouring my heart and soul into this, is because these kids want a trampoline and they love it, and I can do something that would be really cool for them. And that was the positive. I remember opening the centre and people shaking my hand that I've never met at competitions, and they were like, "Congratulations on your centre, really good." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I'd never met these people, and they said, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I remember just thinking, no, I'm not lucky. I've worked my hiney off to make this happen, but thank you. And yes, it is brilliant. And yeah, high fives. It's great. But it was just I don't think there's no secret. There's no magic potion or lotion. It is just you've got to work really, really hard, and you've got to have a team of people that can either give you knowledge or de-stress you, or help you in any which way they can to make the dream come true, really.
For me, I think that what makes things work is people, having the right people to do things. So Polly, you just talked about like the gymnasts and whatnot, but cultivating a team of people around me to be my support network, so that I wasn't having to do everything myself. And don't get me wrong, like Polly said, myself and my wife Mel, we absolutely worked our fingers to the bone to make it work, and the number of sleepless nights that we had was just crazy, but being able to have a team of people that you knew had your back and you knew would be able to help you through thick or thin was super important. And then sort of the second string to that people answer is actually the members of our community that had nothing to do with my club. So there were coaches and other clubs that welcomed me with open arms. Olly with his notebook and pen, going, "What did you do? How did you do it? Can I have a look at how you do your accounts? How do you run your payroll? How did you go about finding a venue? What sort of height have you got?" And I spotted that someone actually asked about height. And to answer that question about my venue specifically, we're a pitched roof, and we're 8.2 meters to the apex and 7.5 meters over the cross of the trampoline. Just to answer that question. So yeah, the community offering themselves and like quite literally going, "Here's all my account spreadsheets. Please don't share it around, but you can see how we've got the club set up and how everything works and how we've put a timetable together and And I absolutely ripped everything off. I stole every piece of information and studied it, and then came up with the right solution for our club and our circumstances. But the fact that the community was so willing to help, I found quite humbling actually, and I've certainly been really keen to give of my time to everybody else who wants to look at starting a club up, whether it's a club from scratch just into a school, or whether it's people looking to take the step from the school into a venue. I've been keen to help people with that, so yeah, it's cool.
And we'll go to Mel second. And I know Jill just put in about any tips on for getting a building and moving to that. And actually, when you keep saying community, I'm thinking, okay, your community around you, or actually the trampoline community, and you're trampoline
community. Yeah, nationally, there were lots of clubs. I mean, I mostly spoke to clubs in the southwest, but definitely I've got a good handful of clubs nationally that I did Facebook meetings and a couple that I went to visit, and yeah, it was just to see how other gyms ran. And Mel talking about, you come down to the gym on a Friday night and it looks like absolute chaos. When you walk into a big facility and you've not seen that or been part of running that kind of thing before, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell is going on in here? And actually, when the coach that's in charge of that takes you through, okay, well, this group of gymnasts are on this piece of equipment. This is their zone here. They've got that zone. They're with that coach. They're with that coach. They're going to move to there in about 2 minutes time. Oh, look, there they go. They've gone now. It's you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, thinking about how to make everything work and people sharing that is really important.
Yeah, and I think that's it. There is a trampoline, there's a gymnastics community out there, and actually everyone's probably quite happy to just chat and share questions or queries or comments, or actually, yeah, we tried this, it didn't work, but what we learned from that is, so there's lots of lessons learned. So sharing and asking questions and contacting people outside of this is fantastic. Mel, what were you going to dive in with before Polly interrupted you at the beginning?
To say the same thing, to be honest. I was just going to say it's all about the people that you've got working with you. And I've I've learned that over the years. I started off with quite a good, passionate team of volunteers. Times have changed, and most of the individuals at VGA are now employed. But I've realised, you know, a couple of years ago, we realised that we wanted to develop our disability provision. Well, I didn't have the capacity or the knowledge to do that. So by bringing somebody in who had that experience, we were able to develop that section of the club far more extensively. And I think it's about bringing people in that have got expertise and can actually add something to what you're doing in your club or at your business. Everybody wants to help, and that's brilliant, and you need those people. But I've also learned that you need people who've got real specialisms, people who've got experience, people who come from elsewhere that can bring something in, and they've been absolutely invaluable to kind of taking our club to the next level. Because I only know what I know. I don't know what I don't know, and there are other things, you know, that I know I don't know. But also kind of building on this community thing. I think something we've been quite good at is developing kind of a network within sport and within business locally. So not necessarily gymnastics, but building we've got a really strong partnership with Street Games. We work really closely with Business Wales. So, you know, although they helped us in the early days, we keep going back to Business Wales. They've helped us in terms of rewriting staff contracts free of charge, rewriting our staff handbook free of charge. So there's kind of loads of resources out there that you find out about when you build those networks and you ask questions and you go along. I go to like the Barclays business breakfast. I'm the only female there under the age of about 60, but actually you learn a lot while you're there, and you get, you know, you kind of hear what's going on locally. So it's really, really useful. So I think as well as building that network within gymnastics, within trampolining, also try to identify where else you may kind of seek help within the community. And it might not necessarily be help right now, but it might be a year down the line or 2 years down the line when you need something, or there's a grant or there's a project opportunity, that network that you've built will really prove to be invaluable.
No, I agree. And actually, sometimes you've got to go out of your way to research all that stuff and find it. The fact that Barclays opportunity, going to one of those brunches, how did you stumble across that, Mel? Was that you knew that was there, or you just by chance, or?
No, with that one, the bank manager sent me an email, and I think I deleted about the first 10 that he'd sent me. And in the end, I thought, oh, well, he keeps sending these. I'll just go and have a look. You get a free breakfast roll. It's only an hour. It can't be that bad. So I went along, and wasn't the most comfortable of experiences, but it was absolutely fine. I got on with it and I went, and, you know, that's proven useful with kind of some local contacts, improved the relationship with the bank. I know what the guy at the bank now does and what he can help me with. Because I think for us, a lot of clubs are now in units in Wales. When we went into a unit, there were very, very few. So with Welsh Gymnastics and things, for example, there were no regional development officers, or they may have just gone into post and they didn't really know a great deal about clubs moving in, you know, to units and growing as businesses. So I think for us, there's a lot. I'll always say to people, I don't know much about running a business. I just operate on common sense. And I stand by that now. Sometimes I'll talk and it sounds like I really don't know what I'm talking about. But in terms of the common sense of running my business, I do know what I'm talking about. So I think because of that situation, we had to go and find out these things. We had to find out. There wasn't just a kind of go-to person for us like there is now at Welsh Gymnastics.
And I agree. And I think a bit there is going out and looking for those sort of contacts, because actually the great thing I love about Mel is I see in... when it comes to the award season, there's awards that I've never heard of before, but Mel is part of every one of them. And the other bit there about getting experience or working with people who know their stuff, like the fact that you didn't mention there, Mel, is that you guys last year won the British Gymnastics Equality and Inclusive Award. So from going from not having to working with individuals to bring that in, to get to that level is a fantastic sort of mini journey.
Yeah.
Polly, Olly, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's finding people with the expertise that you trust. A lot of people are very good at saying a lot of things and not really necessarily backing it up. So I think you learn very quickly who you can trust and who you can't trust, and people that you just click with. So all of my business support comes from my mum, because she runs a business and she has for the last 15 years. And she is incredible when it comes to numbers and figures and what the employment law is on so-and-so. She's just amazing. And I get her to look over all of my Excel spreadsheets of everything going on. My sister's a solicitor, so when it comes to contracts and the other sort of side of the law of it, she's there on the end of the phone call. And I think you just have to go with your gut on who you trust as well, because a lot of people will offer you a lot of help, and you've got to smile and say thank you very much, and then you have to choose who you want to work with and who you think is going to be, you know, helpful in the long run.
No, I agree. And someone said to me once, it's like, oh, you've got to, what you just said there is like, you as an individual, you have your own board of people that you will trust. And the fact is that, like, your sounding board is your mum, is your sister. You might have the other odd person that you go, okay, if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to try something, I'll run it past that person. If I had to say who Mel's was, I could probably guess one of them maybe. Who would be your go-to people, Mel, if you had to say that?
Helen Phillips, who was at Welsh Gymnastics. I know not everybody, she's everybody's cup of tea, but in terms of supporting me and advising me, she's been absolutely second to none. Others for me are people at Cardiff Met that I've got a fantastic relationship with. One of them was my dissertation tutor. I was then lucky enough to work with her, and she was my mentor at Cardiff Met and my line manager. And she's probably still the person that I go to now as a sounding board. May not necessarily have the answers or the technical information that I need, but can give me some common sense answers and guide me in the right direction.
And that's Nicola, is it?
Yeah.
And Olly, who would be your go-to? So it's like, yeah, the people that you trust and that you, well, you don't have to say who they are, but you could just highlight if you've got those people.
I've just stuck it in the chat.
Oh, is it?
At the time that we were opening, well, the time that we were opening is well down the line of the timeline of opening your club. Now that sounds like a funny thing. The time when your club, or if you're, I mean, we're talking about you know, generating a facility. So you might already have a club, and it can be quite small and it can be quite manageable. But if you want to make that jump from a normal club to a dedicated facility, there's that moment which you have to step across in your own head, where you're going to go, actually, I'm weighing it all up, and yeah, it's a good idea. Yes, I'm going to do it. And from that moment on, you're galvanized into making it happen. But there has to be that moment where you step across that line. I think the person that I bounced off the most at that time was Mo Gregory down at Zero Gravity down in Plymouth. I mean, I love Mo to bits. She's crazy than a bag of cats. But she said so many things to me that really resonated and really kind of made me think about what I needed to do and how I was going to achieve it and what the consequences were. And I think probably one of the most important things I think that she said to me that came across, she was like, you know, all those really rubbish jobs that you've had in the past, Olly? And I was like, yeah, I've had some rubbish jobs. And you know, those really dreadful bosses that you've had that have treated you really badly, or that haven't provided you a great workplace to be in, or they just bring the whole atmosphere of your work community down. I went, yep, I've had those bosses too. She's like, well, you're going to be that person. You're going to be that boss. You're the one that's providing the work environment. You're the one that's setting the tone for everybody within the place. You're the one that sets the ethos. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be paying their wages. So you're providing the monetary aspect of people coming and working for you. Why should people want to come and work for you over coming and working for another trampoline or gymnastics club, or, you know, a completely different sector, going working for, you know, a cafe or a restaurant, or you know, anything else? Why should they come to you? You know, because trust me, your staff are going to talk about you behind your back, and you want them to be talking nicely about you. The fact that they enjoy coming to work for you, they enjoy the atmosphere that you've created, they enjoy being part of your club. You want to have them buy into your brand and your club, so that they're engaged, they're on board, and even though they're there for a job, they're going to work twice as hard for you, because it's not a job, because they're there because they want to be there, rather than they're there because they're being paid to be there. So yeah, she gave me loads of really good advice like that. Yeah, there's definitely that moment where you have to step across the line and make the decision, and then after that, it kind of tumbles itself. It all escalates. Opening is it just happens. But that moment when you cross the line, that was probably the biggest moment in my journey, was making that decision to go for it.
Oh, beautiful. And it sounds like you had a number of people that you relied on for sound advice to help you over that line, which is awesome. Which brings us to our next bit, challenges. So anyone can kick us off. What challenges along the way did you find? Mel, you can kick us off.
I'm struggling to think of one, to be honest. Every issue or challenge that crops up, I tend to kind of tackle it with quite a positive attitude. Day-to-day work life is quite difficult at times, various bits and pieces. But at the end of the day, I absolutely love what I do. I don't have this feeling on a Sunday night that it's Monday morning dread that I know a lot of people have. I've never had that since I started working at VGA. So whatever kind of challenges, problems there are, I get over them. However, for me, Olly talking about staff members, my biggest challenge on a day-to-day basis probably is my staff. Very difficult to manage on a day-to-day basis. I've probably got 50% of my staff that adore their job. They love their work. They go over and above. They don't grumble. They do everything because they're there for the kids and they're there for the club. However, I have a batch of coaches, many of them very, very young, that they don't know they're born, in my opinion, and the other coaches that work with me at VGA, they think they have got the hardest job in the world. These are coaches that rock up, have a group, coach the group and go home again. And for some reason, they think their job is fairly difficult. If you had a conversation with them, they would tell you that they love their job. They would love what they do. They love gymnastics. However, sometimes their body language, their comments, their persona would suggest otherwise. And sometimes if they would have those honest conversations with you, then it would be easier to deal with them. But I think sometimes, and I don't know whether it's just kind of their personalities with some of them, they can be problematic. Want a lot of holiday, don't want to do a lot over and above. I hate saying this because I don't like to speak badly of my staff, and I've got absolutely amazing coaches and staff, but there's a proportion that I see as my challenge on a day-to-day basis.
And I like the way that you phrase that. You take it on with a positive approach, and it's cool that, like, looking through that the chat that's going on down here is how many staff do people have, like, in your different facilities? Because the chat today was talking about how you got to where you are, and the thing is, when Mel, you said you have 60, and Olly 32, and Polly, you're up to 6. Boosh. How did you get to just one employed person? How did you do that bit? What was the challenges to get to that stage? Because the fact that, Mel, you just 60, Olly, you're saying 32, and Polly 6. How did you get to that stage? What challenges did you go along the way to get to that number?
Go for Olly.
Constant recruitment and training and upskilling and quite a lot of arm bending up the back. I think I said earlier on about building that community of people around you, that support network. All of the stuff that I do within the discipline of trampolining has given me the opportunity to be part of lots of different circles of people, different competition circuits, different organizing committees, running different, being the organizer, the event manager of sort of major national events and all of that kind of stuff has allowed me to build up this big group of people around me. So it was I don't know if easy is the right word. It's definitely not the right word, but I had a big pool of people that I could pull from and go, we've got this facility. It'd be great to have you on board. So yeah, we certainly didn't start off with that. We started off with just a few coaches that we had, and we had a couple. I think I had one person at the very start that was, really wanted to do it, but I did have to do a lot of cajoling. took him to the pub lots of times and fed him lots of beer and said, come on, you really do want to make this jump and you do want to leave your really comfortable full-time job, that it's okay, but you're so much better than that. Come on full-time with me. Oh, but what if it all goes wrong? It's not going to go wrong, it'll be fine. So yeah, it takes a lot of cajoling to get to that point. And then of course we expanded into different disciplines when we opened up, and we had to financially, we had to be more than just a trampoline club, which is why we offer so many more disciplines now. But as we've expanded, we started that discipline off really small, and then as we've been able to go, you're a fantastic coach, I'd love for you to come and work with me. Brilliant, got you in, now let's expand the program a little bit more. Brilliant, you can come in, let's expand the program a little bit more. So my poor old wife, who writes all the rotas, and as a team we sit there and look at the program of delivery, that the number of classes and the number of kids in those classes and where those classes operate within the gym, that gets ripped up every week and thrown in the bin, and we start again pretty much every week going, right, how are we going to organize everything now, because this has changed and this has changed and this person has come in, and we've got it's an ever-changing beast. It never sits still.
And Polly?
Yeah, mine was always lead from the front. So however hard I work, if I'm the hardest working person in the building, my expectation is that my staff are working that hard. So it's very rare that as a coach, you'll see me sat on a chair, or like in the days where we had the van and we were taking the kit out, I was sweating buckets. I was running around, talking to parents, sorting out the kids, making sure everyone had all their kit when they were leaving the room. And then I was also doing that whilst packing away a trampoline and putting the mats into the van and taking it in and out. And I think it's always just been lead from the front. And it's always training as well. And communication is key. It is kind of the buzz of the club and our staff, that you need to be good at communicating, else you don't know what you're doing, and you're not doing it well or effectively. So I think, training, we spent a lot of time doing training. And whenever I went away, because I always want to learn, I know I don't know everything, I want to learn as much as I can. So I'll go to other clubs, I'll go to the symposiums, I'll go to my coaching courses. As soon as I come back, I always have the week after a training day, and I will teach them everything that I've learned. And so that is filtering down through. So that's kind of what I want to do, is educate as well. But yeah, the hard part is staffing, and it always is. Managing expectations was one on my list of the hardest. One of the hardest things is managing everybody's expectations. So you've got all the layers of your club, whereas you've got the bouncers themselves and their expectations of whether they want to be Olympians or just do it for fun, and then you've got the parents' expectations, staff expectations of your finances. You've just got everything. You've got every plate spinning, and it's trying to keep all those plates spinning. And I remember at a competition last year, I was just standing in the training hall of the competition arena, and Jay just came and put his arm around me from Liverpool, and he was like, "You're right." And I was like, "When does it get easier?" And he went, "After about a year and a half, you'll be fine. Don't worry, you'll be able to leave the gym then, year and a half." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "I've got 6 months to go." And he was right. He really was right. It just took that storm, norm. And it is just that roller coaster of it all, and you've just got to have patience and be patient that it will all come right, because it does. Patience, I think, is a big thing to learn as well.
And how has your patience developed, Mel, over your time then? Because I think the thing is, on your info that you put there, you went from 200, less than 100 in a club delivering to where you've got to. What did you learn along that pathway, along that part of the journey?
I think for me, it's been about putting processes, practices, and kind of systems. That sounds a bit technical, but putting practices in place that actually can be rolled out to other venues. Coaches know what's expected of them. Everything operates in a certain way. You are expected to behave in a certain way to a certain standard. And I think previously where you said we've won a lot of awards, we go for those awards because they're great PR in the local community. That's why we go for them. But actually for the team of staff, they're also like kind of a badge that actually you're all doing a really, really good job. And whereas I can be a little bit demanding and things have to be done a certain way at the right time and the way that actually we're telling you to do it, there is a reason for it. And actually the fact that the club wins these awards justifies, you know, and kind of gives credence to what we're doing. And I think for us as an organisation, that's really good. And even, you know, with these younger coaches that I complain about, they still understand there's a reason why they need to toe the line, why they need to do things a certain way. And actually they do it. And I know that I can trust them. I know that if I'm missing from the gym, there's not going to be a circus there. It's going to run as it normally would. So that's been quite important. And I've learnt that is important, that there is a way that we do things, and it's very important that everybody is trained and everybody knows that that's how they need to do it. And I think a lesson for us as well has kind of been around kind of people management, contracts, staff handbooks, all of that HR stuff that I actually don't know a great deal about, but it's massively, massively important. And now with the number of employed people that we've got, we pay HR consultants on a monthly basis for them to advise us and to provide all our documentation, etc. And that's been invaluable as well. So kind of that's been a journey for us as well, from kind of creating our own to working with Business Wales, working with solicitors, and now actually just paying for that on a monthly basis so that we've got people there to advise us as well.
How much do you pay for that, Melissa? Just out of curiosity, that's because we do all of that stuff in-house at the moment. So
£600 a month.
Okay.
Which we had a good deal on because we've got so many kind of part-time staff members, but the board of directors, you know, for us it was a no-brainer. We were in that position where we needed to now be doing that, regardless of it being a fair lump of money, I guess.
No, I agree. And I think the one bit there that you said is about, so every time someone puts a VGA top on and they go to a competition, or if a gymnast walks into a different VGA club, they get the same experience.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I went to Newcastle last year for an event or something, and you flew into the airport in Newcastle, wherever that is, and there was a Greggs in the front of it, and it was like your normal airport, and then it's basically a copy and paste of a Greggs just there, and it's exactly the same decor, the same stuff, but just in a little corner, so you get that brand management wherever you go. And it's important because they are representing you every time they put that shirt on, or every time someone goes to that. So it is that brand recognition. So it's getting it right, where especially if you duplicate it into other facilities as well.
But if you've created that buy-in from all of the people who are going to stick your shirt on, then it's a very easy thing to manage, because they will want to present themselves and present the club in the best way possible as well, without you even really having to shout at them about it. You know, I've had instances where I've had to, you know, pick up on stuff for certain bits and pieces that, you know, I want to correct, or I want to performance manage in a certain way. So, you know, they might have a funny 5 minutes with me for, you know, a little while, but I absolutely know that when they walk out of the door, or if they're away from me at a different venue and they've got their shirt on, I 100% know that every single staff member will have the club's back. I've never had
I once had staff members go on a night out in their ETA shirts, and I found out on Instagram, and I messaged them straight away, "What are you doing?" And they turned their shirts inside out and sent me a thumbs up back. I was like, oh my God. Cheers, guys.
Is your ETA kit like Ralph Lauren or something?
Literally, they love it. They live in it.
Taking on a night out.
It brought back a memory, actually, what Olly and Mel were saying, in that just before lockdown, I was driving for a dog walk on like a Sunday afternoon, and we don't operate on a Sunday at the minute. And I was walking along. I was driving along. I was about half an hour away from the centre, and I saw a little kid walking to co-op with an ETA top on, and I just automatically started crying, and I felt so proud of myself. And I was like, a kid woke up on a Sunday when they're not training, and they wanted to put on a t-shirt. It might have been the only clean one, but they ruined the story. But they chose to put on an ETA t-shirt, and they chose to spend the day in the kit because they were hopefully proud of it, and they love it. And I was really proud of that. And that, yeah, it made me well up straight away.
So going from one end to the other there, coaches on a night out to Sunday afternoon.
Lovely little 8-year-old going to co-op, yeah.
And that's a beautiful, beautiful image there about people feeling part of the community and part of the team. And I think Mel said it earlier on. Oh no, sorry, Polly, you said it about and Mel, you probably did the same about how it's about getting the parents involved. It is a community. I think I said in one of the other chats that in New Zealand, for example, it is about the community. If a child joins a rugby club, it's not about what that kid can bring to the team. They might be a young Jonah Lomu, but if the rest of the family are not getting involved in some capacity, helping wash the boots or helping clean the kit or help set the chairs up, then they don't get involved. So that getting the community involved, it sounds like an important part of your journey, Polly.
Yeah, massively.
And how about your side, Ollie? How much is the parents' activity in your side?
We try and involve the parents as much as we possibly can. I mean, to maximise the space. I mean, I think that's one thing that I didn't. I mean, I knew it was going to be expensive, but I didn't quite realise how expensive it was going to be to run a venue of our size. It's really quite amazing. So to maximise the amount of income that we're able to do, I mean, we really have racked it and stacked it as far as our timetable and our program is concerned. So as much as is humanly possible, we try and make sure that pretty much every square centimetre of the gym is being utilised. So we don't. What we're all about to have to do when we return from this COVID situation is to have those breaks between sessions, because we're going to have to be cleaning down and all that kind of stuff. Previously, we've never had any of those. So one session will then launch straight into the next session, which will then launch straight into the next session. So it's quite difficult sometimes to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to the parents and all that kind of stuff. So we've tried to encourage within our staff base, if there's because a lot of times the sessions will turn over on the hour, which means all my coaches start at the same time and all my coaches finish at the same time in that session. But I don't need all my coaches to run a warm-up for the first 5 or 10 minutes. So we're always trying to encourage the coaches to go and integrate within, in the cafe area and talk to the parents. Oh, little Billy's getting on brilliantly. Oh, he's got his badge today. Woohoo! And to talk about any little problems that they might be experiencing and to have that face-to-face contact. We also try and run all sorts of social days. So we do things like club barbecues and we have race nights and we had awards dinners for both the recreational side of things, and we had it for the squad side of things. We have discos. So we try and do as many things as possible to try and bring the parents into the gym. Sometimes those things are fundraisers, like the race night type thing. We raised a couple of thousand out of a race night evening, which was great. Great opportunity to see the parents, great opportunity to raise some money. Then there's other times when actually it's just about the social thing. We're not running it to make any money. It's not about, it has to wipe its face, obviously, but it's not about making money. So like our discos and things like that are at the end of the year, sometimes we lose a little bit of money on those, but it's important that we try and make it as cost effective as possible for as many people to be involved in the club as possible. I don't want finances to be a barrier to participation.
No, they're fantastic, and it sounds like getting that involvement it's at different levels. You've got them either raising money or, as Polly was saying, getting involved in creating and generating ideas. Mel, with your 2,800 people, do you do much interaction with them or have much parent interaction?
To be honest, we don't. We try on a venue by venue basis, but typically some of our venues we have more success with it than others. And in all honesty, there's a perception amongst our parents, because the club is so large, they see us as just a business, and they want to do what they want to do. But actually, when it comes down to fundraising, if it's generic fundraising, it's not particularly successful. What works for us is if there's a particular trip, or Bethany, for example, was going to the Special Olympics World Games. So to be fair, then our parents were absolutely phenomenal and raised all of the money needed for Bethany and her family to go out to Abu Dhabi. We've done training camps in Portugal, so the parents will pull together and they'll raise funds. It's something that I would like to us to be better at. But then the other part of me thinks, well, if they see us as a business, and if that's the culture that's being developed at the club, then actually I can't really fight that, and we're better off going with that, and engaging with and utilising the parents when needs be. In saying that, I feel as a coaching team and as a group, we've got a fantastic relationship with the parents. So our admin staff, for example, on reception, have got a brilliant relationship. We'll stop, chat with them in the middle of the session. The coaches will go out, as Olly said, talk about the children in the session, what they're doing, etc. We try to keep that rapport really going over social media as well. So for us, I guess it's just doing it in a different way. And I think because of the size of the club, it's just a little bit difficult or different sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, and that's the social enterprise, or the social media side is another area where we could spend ages talking about as well. But I wanted to jump on one other bit before we go into, because I know we're 6 minutes over the 9. We said we were going to carry on a bit longer, but some great chat going on. I wanted to jump in what you said there, Polly, about, and I think Mel, you've said similar stuff before about. I saw in the chat about, if someone wants to do that next level qualification, or they're going to bring some learning back, that you try to either fund it, Mel, or Polly, you were saying about trying to draw as much information out of that individual as possible to saturation, so it can spread the love there, but also to give people the time and space to do qualifications. Because I think some clubs probably find it difficult, because if they're not there, or someone disappears, they've got to get cover. It's like doing some of these sessions and some of the other stuff. Actually trying to find time is difficult. But how do you approach that situation? We'll go, Polly.
So the way that we operate club is that there is a coach on every trampoline. Now, obviously, this is more than is required, but it just means that we have that flexibility. So if we've got 100% of our coaches in, fantastic, everybody's getting a high quality session that goes really well. If for any reason that anybody is sick, or anybody needs to go away and do a coaching course or whatever, there is then also level 2 coaches that will then be able to take 2 trampolines. So we've always got that flexibility. So it's very rare that we're ever like, you've got to give the nod to your other coaches and go, look, you got to take another bed tonight. But it's never in a crisis situation where we can't open and say you can't come in or anything. But or we normally have people that are doing part-time hours, and we can ask them to do a bit more or whatever. We've got, we have got a little bit of flexibility when it comes to myself going away, because I go away. Oh, last year I did go on 2 coaching courses. It was then asking for other coaches sometimes from other places to come down and cover me. So like Nigel might come down and from Olga, he comes down on a Wednesday sometimes just to mentor me, but he knows the kids and he might be happy to work with them. Or I've got other sort of level 3 coaches that are happy just to step in and help out on those days, and you leave a session plan. It's just trying to be as flexible as you can be. But my approach was, well, if I cover everything, then if something goes wrong and someone's not there, then we can still be okay. I try and be proactive rather than reactive is my approach to business.
No, fantastic. And Olly, do you want to dive in? Do you do anything along that some of the vein?
I mean, we've always encouraged, we've always encouraged all of our staff to upskill as much as possible, and we've always tried to make the time and to support people through that process, because it's, without the team of coaches, you haven't got a club. Remove the word business for a moment. You haven't got a club. You haven't got anyone teaching anything. So yeah, it's super important that we've always supported that. As we've sort of grown and got bigger, I mean, obviously the obvious financial barrier to having a facility is that you've got to fill it with equipment, and you've got to, you've got all of the bills to pay. So like Melissa's £600 a month just to do paperwork. Some of you might go, oh, flipping heck, that's a lot of money. But when you add all the other on costs associated with running a facility, actually it's a huge amount of money. So whilst we were sort of building up and getting the gym to the point where I was happy and that everything was running and that we had enough bums on seats to be able to pay for it and all that kind of stuff, obviously we didn't have a huge amount of money available. Now that we do, and that we are, we 100% fund all level 1s and level 2s across all disciplines, and encourage all of the staff to access those. If you're going to do any level 3 modules, Depends if there's a business need for it. So if I need a level 3.1 or level 3.2 coach to run tumbling, for example, so you're going to be my lead tumble person, I will send you on that course and I'll pay for it. If you want to upskill because you want to learn more and you want to gain more information and you want to rise up the coaching ladder, brilliant. I'll support you with that, and I'll provide all the mentoring opportunities and all the logbook stuff, and putting you into sessions where you can have access to the kids that you need and whatnot. But you'll have to pay for those yourself, because there is a qualifications-based pay rise that they'll get with that as well. So there's an incentive for them to want to do it. But yeah, there's a lot of value in having level 1s and level 2s around in the gym. So that's why we fund those 100%.
No, and it's that bit there about the incentive to develop themselves and to do that extra bit. Because I think the one bit we're doing from this series, I think this is the 8th one we've done. And actually, there's always learning that can be done, and it's not just doing the qualification, sit there. Well, actually, what's the next step? How can you push yourself? And if that's a good way of doing it, incentivizing, I like that. It's a good approach. Mel.
Similar to what Olly said, to be honest. So there are pay rises linked to coaching qualifications, but pretty much those who show the willingness, the keenness, we 100% fund all qualifications. We do with artistic level 2s and then level 3s. We expect before we pay for those qualifications for the coaches to be coming in off their own backs to get some mentoring time in. So we wouldn't chase the coaches for that. If they wanted to do that qualification off their own back, rather than it being about the business need, then I would expect them to be chasing for a mentor coach. I would expect them to be coming in and giving up some of their time. If we, for the sake of the business, needed people to be doing these qualifications, then we're supportive is the wrong word, but we're a bit more proactive in terms of working with them and matching them up with a mentor, etc. But we find that coaches will very quickly say, yeah, I'll do that next qualification. I'll get a pay rise then, won't I? Without sometimes being 100% committed to the time they need to put into it, the step up as to what will be expected of them then in the gym upon their return in order to get that pay rise. And just because you've managed to pass your level 2, if you're not operating at a level 2 standard or not needing to be of a level 2 standard within a particular session, then maybe we need to have a bit of a conversation about whether you're going to get that pay rise now or a little bit further down the line, to be honest.
No, I agree. I like that. It's like, I think it's being clear on what the expectations are.
Yeah.
If you've got the expectations, here's the bar.
Yeah.
You need to clear that. Just because you got the bit of paper and you limbo under it doesn't mean you're just going to automatically get it. Because with that level 2, with the 3.1, 4, 2, 3, 4, there's the expectation that you're going to lead. You're going to start to go to that next level.
Yeah, they do need to be. They need to be filling the shoes of the job role. And if they're not stepping up and functioning in that, if they're taking their level 2 or their level 3 modules, but they're just acting like a level 1, that's not what I need. That's not what I need you for. You need to be filling that role.
No, agree. And maybe if we do another chat, we'll talk about some of those little challenges that come along with it as well in terms of running and developing a business. But some fantastic points, and I love the fact the bit that comes through there is that it's not, there's a sort of an incentive, but a drive to better people and just keep pushing. It's actually keep doing those qualifications, keep going out, absorbing information. And I think Mel summed it up earlier on. You don't know what you don't know, so you've actually got to go out and research stuff. I did a couple of years ago where I tried to do a new thing each week in Cardiff, and I don't know what's going on in Cardiff, so I actually had to put hours of research into finding out what I didn't know and what was going on to attend different events, to go do different stuff, to learn different skills. So you've actually got to go and search for stuff that you don't know to see what exists. And then the other bit I'll dive on before we go into our last sort of section is when Mel said about trying to hunt out people who know their stuff, and then what Polly said about and trusting if they know their stuff and they're good at what they do, get them involved because they can only better and help. I think I've sent a couple of people in Mel's direction and they're still there. So that's psychology and an S&C individual. And I think Mel has drained them for every ounce that they can give.
If they want the work, I've got work. They need to work for their money. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, I love the fact that I've sent a couple of people. It's like, if you want Mel, it will hunt. Mel loves that sort of stuff in terms of, you've got an S&C person who's specifically focused PhDs in the world of gymnastics, women's artistic and youngsters. She's been doing donkey stuff, and same with psychology. And I love the fact that you can go out and look for that sort of that content and those individuals who know their stuff. Awesome, team. We're going to go into the final home straight now. We could, I don't want to anger Polly, because I can imagine she's put that PowerPoint's beautiful, but we might not revisit it. But the final bits that I wanted to dive into was lessons learned. So if we had to sort of say, what's the golden bits? If you could go back, I'd ask this with the individual coaches that I spoke to. When I spoke to Sue Lawton down there, when I spoke to Tony James, when I spoke to the New Zealand national coach, I said, if you could go back and tell yourself, like, you can have 2 things each. They had 3. If you could go back and tell yourself two things about running a club or running a business, what would you go back and tell yourself? Who wants to go first? I'm going to point at Polly, because you've probably done a PowerPoint slide for this.
No, I haven't. Stop making me feel like a geek, all right?
I love the PowerPoint. What would it be?
You're not seeing any more of it. You don't deserve it. I lessons to say. So I was actually asked this recently by a very high level coach in British Gymnastics, who was thinking about starting his own club. And I said the best thing about starting a club and the hardest thing about doing your own club and starting a venue are exactly the same things. It's the amount of work that you've got to do. It's the stress of it all. It's the people skills that you have to have for it, and the people that you see within it. But the best things are also the worst things. So it's very hard to say, but I think I'm learning over time, and sort of I'm very much at the start of my journey. My aspirations of the future are to do more businesses. So this is my first one. This is my baby, and I'm very protective of it. But I think I maybe have been, what people say, I haven't had kids yet, but what people say about their first child, and how, like, you put loads of time and effort into it, and you give them everything, and everything they buy is brand new and shiny, and you want it to be the best thing ever. Then you have your second one, and sometimes they fall on their head, and that's okay. And that's kind of how I think is the patience that you learn with your businesses as well, and the patience that you learn over time. Yeah, cool. So I think it, in my mind, it's probably what maybe that is like, in that I was very precious of it, and I had to nurture it, and I had to put so much into it, otherwise it wasn't going to grow. But actually, self-reflection has been the best thing for me in this time of, actually, it's only trampolining. Like, at the end of the day, you put everything into it, and you want it to be the best thing in the world. And yes, it is the best thing in the world, but we're not doctors. We are just trampoline coaches, and as long as you do your best, that's all you can do. And I think that's kind of a lesson that I have learned along the way.
So summarising, is that don't stress out about it? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that well, my husband might say differently. I wouldn't say I'm super stressy. I think I'm just very, I have very high expectations. So whenever I speak to my kids and my coaches and stuff, they're like, God, you have high expectations. You expect so much from us. Like, yeah, because I expect from you what I expect from myself. And maybe I can soften that a little bit, maybe. And I can be more patient and wait for it to happen organically, rather than being like, come on. And maybe I can do that.
Oh, beautiful, Polly. Oliver.
I only get called Oliver if I'm being naughty.
Olly.
I've actually shared one of them in the chat bar, which is get your employment contracts right. The paperwork where you're dealing with your people, the people that are going to be part of your club and part of your business, get that right, because it governs how they work for you, and it just needs to be right. I've been bitten by my contracts and things not having the right things in place, and so yeah, that's probably my one off the cuff answer. I think my more considered answer, and kind of builds on what Polly says, is if you're going to open a facility, don't underestimate the fact that you are not going to have a life for the next Polly said 18 months.
That's what Jay told me. I
I'm
was like, I'm waiting.
I'm 5.5 years into my facility.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that.
It's still 24/7 every day.
Oh, Sue, no.
Both my wife and I, we are full on. And she's the lead administrator, and she and I are full on every day doing stuff. It's when people come in and they go, "Oh, this is great," and the gym looks fantastic. Like it is amazing, and it's off the back of the hard work of so many people that have given of their time and everything. But the gym looks fantastic, and they come in and they go, "Oh, this is great! Look at this! Wow, you're really lucky, aren't you?" And you don't need to work very hard because you've got all this, and you're like, how do you think this all got here? Where do you think this timetable came from? How do you think that the program fits together, with millimeter precision? It's because, we've worked and fine-tuned and researched, and we've been to different clubs and we've seen how different clubs do it. And we've looked at the legislation and we've looked at, oh my God, planning law. Getting change of use for a facility in doing the donkey work, because it will come back to you. You're the one that's going to have to do it. Your team will help you, but ultimately the responsibility is going to fall back on your shoulders. And like Polly said, having those really, really super high expectations for yourself means that you don't compromise on what you want to achieve, and to ensure the level of success that you see in your vision. And it's hard work. Would I do it again? Because a lot of people ask me that question. Would you do it again? Now that you're here and you've got this place and you know how much hard work it's taken, would you do it again? And my answer is hell yeah. I would flip and do it again, because ever since I was involved in trampolining, even to a remotely passable level, I was like, I want to run my own club. I want to have my own place. I want to be throwing some gymnasts around. And now I've got that. I'm like, ugh, it's amazing. It's amazing. So would I do it again? Yes, but don't pull the wool over your eyes that it's not going to be a hard slog.
Agree. And I think we're going to Mel in a second, but I think the point that's the picture that I put on the group and the quote which says 2 roads diverge in a woods and I took the one less traveled. And it's one heck of a ride, I can imagine, but it's worth it. And to add to what you just said there, Carmel asked Mel the question, Mel, do you ever take time off? Mel's answer, not really, ! And Sue added 40 years of that. But Mel, if you had to say 2 things that were your take home, if you could go back and tell a younger Melissa when she was at Cardiff Met on that day, what would you have told her to sort of say, yeah, you're doing it, crack on?
Somebody said to me, and it was one of the things that tipped me over the edge to leave and to do it. And they said, you've got the capacity, you've got the capability, you need to have a bit of faith, you need to leap and your wings will appear. And actually that is so true. The guy who said he was an architect, nothing to do with sport, didn't really know me from Adam, didn't know gymnastics, but that's kind of stuck with me. And I know kind of through all of it, I'm, as everybody else is, just so passionate about it. And actually, my thing now is to just keep the faith. Don't sweat over stuff. I worry so much about certain things. I'm getting better at it though, because actually, like Polly just said, you sleep on it. And actually, is it that bad in the morning? No, it's actually not. And this goes against a lot of my personality. So for me, it's been a kind of personal journey as well. And I shared something on Facebook the other night, one of these little quote things, which was just about not worrying, have a bit of faith that everything will actually turn out okay. And as hard as that is, you've just got to put trust in the hard work that you've put in, that you've done everything that you know needs to be done. There may be other things that I'm not aware of. I've got a good team of people around me. And if you've done those things, just have some faith and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is so hard. I don't have a day off. I've had 1 day off since lockdown, and that was the day my nan passed away. That's it. That's the only day I've had off. But I wouldn't actually change it for the world. As much as I love my job at Cardiff Met, the two just do not compare. They can't compare. So, only go into it if your eyes are wide open. But if you're going into it and you've got the passion, then, just have faith that everything we'll be all good at the end of the day. I know it sounds naff, but that's the truth of it, to be honest.
We love cheese.
If I can just add on to that, I think there's a lot of things that you find out along the way. I don't know whether you'll agree with me or not, Mel. But as you kind of go through it, you go, okay, right, I need a trampoline, or I need a gym floor, and I need a coach, I need some kids. Great, that's all I need. Brilliant. And you start things, and then you go, oh, actually, I didn't know that I needed that as well. Okay, so I've got to sort that. Cool, got it sorted. Okay, now I need to do that as well, but I didn't know about that before. And as long as you're doing your best and you're trying to be as proactive as you can to find out what those things are, then I don't think anyone can ever have a go at you for not trying your hardest and then addressing those problems as you meet them.
I completely agree, and I think what you said there about keeping the faith, trusting the process. I've got like I put a slide together which I presented once, and I had George Michael circled in the middle, because actually this was around, we prepared the students as much as possible. We had a local school come in, Blackwood Comprehensive, Tony knows it well. We had 26 pupils come in, and the students delivered an hour and a half of trampoline to these guys. They're not trampoline coaches, and you just got to have faith that actually you've been through a process. You've done what you can do, and it's been one heck of a ride. And just, keep the faith. And I didn't think that was corny whatsoever, Mel. That wings part, beautiful. I know that would have touched Sue nicely as well. But team, some fantastic points there. Once again, I always feel bad not Sue Lawton not talking in a session. Sue, would you like to say anything about the fantastic comments from our panelists?
It's really.
Say it again, so your mic's going.
Every generation produces incredibly enthusiastic people, and I've known Olly for years, and he kind of abounds energy. And Polly, I really met in Portugal a couple of years ago, and I couldn't get over her energy. I don't really know, I don't think I know Melissa, but what is in common with every generation of people that create these special clubs is their passion, their drive, and their energy, and that will never change. And you three are just like, you're bouncing off the walls with this. And I can still bounce off the walls after 40 years. It doesn't go away. It really doesn't. And you'll never get a day off, and you'll never not worry about it. And you might have to reintroduce yourself to your children every other week. But the energy that you guys have got is incredible, and that's why you're running great businesses. I love it. It's brilliant.
And on that bombshell, I would just like to say, so you can do a little clap there, but I'd just like to say thank you very much to our panelists today, Polly, Melissa, and Olly. Some beautiful wise words and comments there of lessons learned along the way, which hopefully hit home with some of you guys who've already got established clubs or developing the clubs or looking to develop clubs. Some fantastic points, of which, it comes through fantastically that you just ridiculously love the sport, love the community, and spreading the love of trampolining and demonstrate a fantastic entrepreneurial spirit, which is awesome. So again, fantastic.
If I've seen that a couple of people said, thanks, it's been really useful and whatnot. Obviously, this is only a snapshot. If anyone, wants to send me an email or have a phone call with me or anything like that, if I can help anyone, I'm always happy to do that. So just putting that out there that I'm available to chat informally.
Same here. That's fine.
So
I don't know as much, but always you can ask me, it's fine.
So I will be asking these guys very nicely afterwards if they want to do a follow-up session where we talk about how they've gone from the club to then develop into 60, 35, and 600 and 1,000 or 2,000 performers in their club. So we're going to talk about that. But what we will do is I'll get the numbers. Actually, email addresses. We'll do emails. That's probably a bit easier. And we'll somehow get you guys to contact them if you want. Are you guys, so Polly, Oliver, and are you happy to put the emails on our chat?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
We'll chuck it on there, and then you can contact them. I am not doing it for free, so if you want to talk to me, you need to buy me a coffee. So I've got high prices coffee, or I'll put my address and you can send me stuff. My mum's been sending me Starbucks coffee occasionally. She's over there with the cat in the window. But yeah, no, some fantastic points. And that's the great thing about this trampoline gymnastics community, is that there's a love to share and whatnot. And actually, I do think that Olly, and Mel, we're going to have some chats after this about, you know, what they've done and how they can develop further as well. But on that bombshell, we're going to call it a night there. Thank you for spending your hour and a half this evening with us. Next week, actually, I'll tell you, we've got Gary Smith lined up to do a chat about his journey from GB Gymnast to Cirque du Soleil. So he's going to do like a bit of a nice open Q&A about his journey and, you know, the insights of what being a Cirque performer is like. I know one of these little funny stories is about him having to learn how to do the makeup, and he was awful at it, and it took him a long time. But on that bombshell, we're going to finish there. Thank you very much for your time. Good night, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.